the number of people, either overpopulation or underpopulation, or optimum population. So having a number of either overpopulation, underpopulation, or optimum population means we can make a budget. A budget of what? Taking money to various sectors to serve or to solve the problems of our people. So government can plan or can budget in their parliament to take some amount to distribute to different sectors so that their community or their people served. For instance, overpopulation means the high number of people in relation to available resources. Here we mean we have few resources. We have just a few resources in relation to the higher or population density. This means will be negative to the community as people will fight each other to have the resources. Underpopulation means we have a few people in relation to many resources. So here you mean many resources are available, which means greater, while the people there are a few ones. This is somewhat a challenge or a bit challenging as some resources can be accessed or cannot be extracted by community, as we have just a few ones who cannot extract everything. For instance, we have a ton of 100 ton of the minerals like gold, but a consumer is only just one, which means one person cannot just extract the 100 ton of that mineral. So having underpopulation also is a bit challenging in population studies, as having many resources with a few ones means we have a little extraction of those resources. Optimum population means a balance between available resources and the people. So according to theorists like Mathers, like Esther Bosrap, they always argue that the community must have the so-called optimum population, which means having just a little number of people versus a little resources, or having greater number of people also in other side greater resources, which means we have a plenty of resources, also a plenty of the consumer. This means the balance of resources available versus the community. The resources available can be easily extracted by the community. So we are always urged to have this balance, because it balance or it budgets the all resources available in the community. So those were some 5 very important usefulness of having population data in relation to planning, as having demographic data means you can show the trend, you can show the increase or decrease in amount of people, which means you can show the rise or fall in population. Having also a number of people or population data means you can distribute easily the social services. Social services like education, health, water, electricity, among others, can be easily accessed by the community in relation to the planning of the government as related to the so-called population data. Number 3, as we have described, is check on the growth by controlling it. So population control, which means the family planning or birth control or birth family planning can be easily being put in place because of the data obtained through either census sample survey or vital registration. Also can check on changes either caused by fertility, mortality, and migration. As we have said, this fertility, mortality, and migration is what account for the component of population dynamics, a component of population change, which means either positively, negatively, as we did in this presentation. Budgeting processes, as also we have linked it to overpopulation, underpopulation, and optimum population. So we have seen that having overpopulation population is both advantageous and disadvantageous. Having underpopulation also has many advantages, however also disadvantages. Optimal population is ideally a nightmare to many countries, but one of the best approach to have development in our community. That is the balance between resources available versus a balance of number in terms of population growth. So generally, you can say human population is both an asset and a liability. So a conclusive remark here is having human population is both an asset and a liability. It's an asset, which means it's an advantage as it creates technology, as it creates innovation. Having many people means you can have innovation, which lies to development of technology. Also, the second to make an asset of population is what we call market base. Having large number of people means market. So you can have many development in terms of industrial development because of having many people. However, also we have said high population also encourage labor supply. The large number you have in a community means you have a skilled labor, semi-skilled labor versus unskilled labor. In the other side or other part of overpopulation or human population is negative side or negative impact, which means having large number of people means you create mass unemployment. Of population of an area means we have a competition in terms of post of jobs. Therefore, our population can create unemployment or massive unemployment. As you all know, in the current planet Earth, what is existing in many countries, both developed and developing nations. Other part also is negative in terms of environment, which is environmental degradation or environmental pollution. The environmental pollution can be caused by either noise pollution or contamination of water, which is water pollution, and other types of pollution. So this marks the end of the first question, which needs us to show the essentials or the importance or the paramount importance of having population data in relation to planning. Also to suggest the means of collecting data, the ways, which is traditional way of collecting data to the community, which you have seen as three main methods, such as census, sample survey, and veto registration. So that's the first question to present for today. The second is also coming from the same topic, which is human population. The questions reads, implementation of Tanzania explicit and implicit population policy of 1992 emerged with different outcomes. Some demographers are still in debate that the accomplishment of this goal were originally set, while the others argue that it has reached nowhere it was to be. Then explain how would you validate this debate by considering the both sides. The setup of the questions need us to show the so-called achievement and failure of population policy. Achievement and failure of population policy. So you can see there in our platform we have posted some questions there. You can read the question number 2 there, very clear. The target of the question is achievement and failure of the population policy. So there in our introduction we can show what is population policy and some element of it and other types. So population policy means a demographic documents, a document or statement or laws or principles that can be set by the community or set by government or set by individuals to accomplish their goal. In this case of human population, as our studies here, demography means a set of laws, a set of principles, which is basically guiding a human population which is again demographic parameters. As we did in the prior question, we said a demographic matters including maternal rate or maternal rate. Then we have the birth rate or fertility rate. We have also rate of migration. We have marital status and other parameters. So all these parameters are to be considered in the population policy in order to solve all problems related to the human population. Therefore, a human population policy is of two kinds, which is direct and indirect population policy. The document or the rules or principles that is guided the demographic parameters are of two kinds, which is implicit and explicit, which means direct and indirect policy. So we have direct policy and indirect policy. So we have direct policy and indirect policy. Direct policy, we mean all of population policies that is direct affecting the human population. They are also called explicit because they just a document which is direct influencing or affect direct the human population parameters. So for instance, birth control measures like in China, where we have one cup, one child policy, which means one family must have just a single baby, either a boy or a girl, which means if you are not abiding with that law, means you can be punished by the community or by the government of China. So indirect policy, in the other side, is all regulations or laws which in one way or another can affect human demography or human parameter. They are either direct or indirect. A good example in these indirect policies in Tanzania, where not all regulations are direct emphasized by the government, but just creating awareness to the community. So having that policy is up to you as a community. So following that, maybe 2 children to bear within your lifespan, depending on your choice, but their target is just to create awareness to the community, so that that community can in one way or another be aware regarding the impact of that population issue. So those were some types of policy. As I said, direct policy or explicit population policy affecting direct a community. If you are not abided to that policy, you can be punished or you can be taxed by the government or community. Good example is in China. What happened around 1970s up until now, where they approximately to have just 2 children per couple, which means one family must have just 1 to 2 children in their lifespan. But indirect, a good example is in Tanzania, where they just harmonized, or we are just having some regulations which can be followed or not followed direct by the community. But the target of the government is to give up the education to create more awareness on the impact of the overpopulation or impact of environmental degradation, impact of any parameters of our community. So the question is how the policy in Tanzania has succeeded or has achieved in solving different problems of the community. The other side is failure. How is our policy being a toothless dog? Means has not achieved, as the other demographer here said in the quotation, that the policy has not succeeded or has reached nowhere. It was to be planned. So the first part is achievement, how the policy has achieved. So number 1 is awareness. Police has achieved to create awareness in many geographical or demographical items such as reproductive health education. So the government has created awareness to the community. Example, a policy on how to control our environment by encouraging many people to plant more trees to make a green city like in Dodoma and some parts of Tanzania. This means the policy is encouraging more people to have awareness on the impact of environmental degradation. What will happen if the environment will not be clean? So this means the policy has achieved to create more awareness to the community. Birth control promotion. The policy has promoted birth control. And as I have said, the country of Tanzania following indirect policy, not direct. So they have just given education to the community about the impact of rearing many children, or impact of having many children, which means the impact of overpopulation. So birth control measures like the promotion of use of condom, UDI, the use of steroid, and other measures has been taken by the community in the center of the health centers to give education on the reproductive matters so that they can control the number of people in their families. Number 3 is refugees issue. The check on refugees program. Tanzania population policy has achieved to check on the issue of refugee, where countries from maybe Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, and part of Somalia, Sudan, and many countries are in Tanzania because of different camps created by the government of Tanzania. This means the Tanzania government, from the policy of the population, which encourage having harmonization of the people, means the refugees camps has been created to solve the problem of refugees from the nearby or neighboring countries, including Congo, Rwanda, and other countries of our neighbor. So the policy has achieved to have camps of refugees to solve the problems of political issues nearby the countries. Number 4 is gender equality and empowerment. Gender equality and empowerment. So currently we have somewhat a balance between two gender, which is female and male. Female and male currently are in the balance way, in harmonized way, as anyone can access the social services, anyone can be allied, compared to the previous era where girls were treated negative to the community. But currently FGMs, that's female genital mutilation, has been eradicated in the community due to awareness created by the police. Also, a balance of ownership, a balance between man and woman in terms of ownership. As you can see, different land ownership can be treated by either female or male in a community. So our population policy in Tanzania has succeeded to create a balance between man and woman. Number 5 is in the issue of engagement between NGOs and the private sector. Private sectors. There is a balance, or there is an engagement between NGOs and the private with the government. As we all know that in Tanzania we have different sectors which are run by the private and NGOs. Taking example for our best university here, that is St. Joseph University, is owned by the private owner. This means the private sector also has been prioritized by the government to take in charge in education service. Also NGOs, you can take example from the lawyer or advocates, run by the private, also some NGOs, which means also the police has encouraged the private sectors and NGO, non-governmental organizations, to take in charge of different activities in the country. So this also proves the achievement, prove the success of the police in the government. So the second part of the question is what we call failure, a toothless dog of the police. How that the police has not succeeded to some sectors, how the population policy in Tanzania is not exactly succeeded in all sectors of the country. Number one, the failure number one, which is common to many countries, unemployment rate. This is the biggest challenge to many countries, including Tanzania, where we have a massive unemployment rate. So this means we have more literate or elite compared to the jobs or the post of jobs found in our locality. So this can be eradicated if the countries emphasize the entrepreneurship education to the community, which in one way or another will promote many people to be employed themselves rather than relying on employment from the country. The second point to make is incomplete gender equality. Incomplete gender equality. Incomplete gender inequality. Here we mean not all gender is harmonized in the community. As in the first point I said, there's a balance of female and male in a community. However, not in all sectors. Some sectors is still organized by the man compared to the female. So this means the population policy has never succeeded in all aspects of life, including the part of gender inequality. Come to law individual implementation of the policy. Law implementation of the policy. So the awareness treated by the police in the country is not all over the country, all over the community, as some people are not aware of the policy that is guiding the human population or the demographic matters of a community. So this means there's a law implementation of the policy in individual level to a person. For instance, a layman found in a village is not aware of the reproductive health education that is accessed by the community found in urban areas. A layman from a village is not aware about the impact of road accident found in the congested areas like in Dar es Salaam and the other part. This means somewhat the police is a toothless dog, has not succeeded to solve all issues regarding the human population or demographic matters. So number 4, to make in relation to failure or toothless dog of our policy is environmental degradation. Environmental degradation. As we have said, having large number of people means you have different problems. You have different challenges. One being environmental degradation. As I have defined the area that environmental degradation implies the introduction of unwanted material which results to loss of the quality of the environment. So if you have land, for instance, you lack the quality of the land to produce. You lack the quality of water to be safe to community. You lack the quality of the peace of mind, that means noise pollution in a community. Therefore, it is a toothless dog part of the policy, as existence of environmental degradation or environmental pollution means the policy is still not succeeded in all sphere of life. Also, another issue to make here as failure is pregnancy. We are still having a pregnancy issues among adolescents. Our children are still having a pregnancy, especially in the coastal areas in some part of Tanzania, where we have institutions which create them to have exposure to the adult issues. So existence of A pregnancy in a community means also a toothless dog, a failure of a policy in the community. So we have also still the problem, we have still having the problem of pregnancy in a community, which also prove the existence of failure in the policy. So generally, we can say achievement and failure of population policy enables the government to take action to consolidate more the policy so that they can fit the community target. So generally, the questions needed is to show the success and the achievement or success and failure or toothless dog of a population policy, which roughly we said one of the achievement is awareness, which means creating education to community that makes them aware regarding to many issues, including the reproductive health education. Birth control is also succeeded or achieved by the police, as we have family control methods, including traditional and modern methods. The refugee problem has been successfully solved by the community, as many refugee camps in Tanzania has been created in many parts, including Kigoma in Tanzania, and the other part with camps. Gender equality and empowerment, which means women have been empowered by the government to have many items, to possess many economic, political, social, and cultural factors or development of a community. NGOs and private sectors are engaged or are linked to the government to offer or to serve the community in terms of social, economic, and political matters. Failure of it, we have seen we have unemployment rate, which means mass unemployment rate, reflecting that we have seen the high number of people in relation to the resources available. Also, the second is a complete gender equality, as we have seen. Not 100% we have succeeded to have a balance between having male status and female status in our community. Low level of implementation of the policy, especially to laymen, who is individual in our community, is still a doubt to make in relation to our discussion of population policy. Come to pregnancy issues is still there in our community, and environmental pollution or degradation is there to make in relation to our question, which is failure of population policy in the country. So that's what is question number 2, which needs us to describe the achievement of population policy of Tanzania and their failure in succeeding their population planning. The third question is coming from power and energy, or fuel and power and energy. Our question is, coal is a black or brown rock consisting mainly of carbon, which is formed by compressed vegetative remains of past age. Assess 4 categories and 4 contributing factors to a decline in coal production in the world. So the question is coming from power and energy, sustainable use of power and energy. The question demands us categories and factors for decline. Factors for decline in coal production in the world. So 2 parts, which is categories or types of coal, as well as factors for decline. Our reason behind for decline in power and the energy of coal, as our case study. So as we have seen, our question is started by defining the term coal. Coal means a black or brown rock consisting mainly carbon, mostly formed by accumulation of dead plants, dead organic matter, dead organic and inorganic matters accumulated or buried for a long time, then result to the compactness of that rock to make the so-called coal. So coal is of importance as is the part of the power and energy to the community, is a source of fuel to the community. So coal is of a great discussion in terms of power and energy. So we have different types to make in terms of coal, or types of coal, or categories of coal. One of the type is what we call peat. One being peat. So one of the category here is peat. Then the second there is what we call lignite. Number 3 to make is what we call bituminous coal. Number 4 is what we call the so-called anthracite. And the last to make in our discussion is graphite coal. So these are main types or categories of the coal. So peat are very young, a young coal. They are just young coal, almost mined or extracted in countries like Russia, Finland, USA, and covering almost 0.4% of the whole of the global coal mining in the world. So just 0.4% of the coal found in the world is of peat, which is the very youngest type of the coal. They are very recent and they are accumulated to form the power and the energy or coal in recent years. So they are very young. They are mostly found in countries like Russia, Finland, Ireland, and USA. So to just account 0.4% of the global mining of the coal in the world. So the second is lignite. They are just brown coal. These are brown coal. Lignite coal. They are a browny coal. They are blind coal in color, and they are always halfway peat coal. Means they are of mixture of some particles of peat and some particles of inorganic matter. So they are not younger than peat, but they are in halfway, which means there are some vegetative matter found in a peat, which can be also found in a lignite. The third, which is bituminous coal, they are just hard and black compacted coal. They are just coal with a black color and mostly compacted color. They are of a plant in our globally, as 80% of the coal in the world is of bituminous, which means a blacky in color type of coal. The fourth to make there is anthracite, which is the hardest particles of the coal, the hardest coal in the world. So the anthracite, they are just accumulation of dead organic matters which compacted for a long time, and sometimes they are very hardest part or the hardest coal in the planet Earth. The last to make there is graphite, which is the highest stage of the formation of the coal, and mostly they are not used for the generation of power and energy, but as the word itself, graph, means they are used in production of drawing equipment like pencil production, graphite coal. So just the coal which is not necessary to be producing the source of energy and power, but they are mostly used for production of other items, including drawing items like pencil. So those were many categories of coal found in the world, found globally. So I have presented to you peat, lignite, bituminous, graphite, and anthracite. So that's what the first part of the question, which needs 4 main categories of the coal in the global. The second part was factors for decline in production of coal. how production of coal is declined, a reason behind for decline in production of coal globally. So point number one is the transport, the means of transport. Means of transport. The factor for decline, reason for decline of coal in the world is number one, transportation challenge. Transportation challenge, which means a coal is a bulk material, is a bulk mineral, which means transporting it is very costly and sometimes need a heavy machine to carry it. Therefore, transport costs and challenges of it has made many people to opt for alternative source of energy, not relying on the coal in the world. So transport cost or transportation challenge, as the coal is heavier to carry or bulk, it is too much heavier to carry, therefore very challenging in making transportation of them. Number two is expensiveness of this source of energy. Many people have abandoned the coal as a source of energy due to being costly, being expensiveness. The coal extraction is expensiveness in terms of labor supply or labor power, in terms of capital to be invested, the level of technology to be invested in the area, among others. This means also this is a challenge, or this is a reason for many people to opt for other source of energy and not a coal in the world. Number three to make is environmental challenge. Challenge for environmentalist challenge. Many environmentalists have been debating on the usefulness of it in relation to the impact of it in the community. So the coal brings environmental problems to the community as they produce the ashes, which means they can cause darkness of the area. Therefore, environmental challenge like land degradation, environmental challenge like pollution, air pollution, and the other environmental issues lies on the environmentalists to challenge on the coal as a source of energy in the world. Hence, this has encouraged the so-called decline in the world coal production as a source of power and energy. The other point to make is being dark and dust, production of dust and darkness of the coal. As I've said, many environmentalists are challenging it because of being dust. So this is among the challenge that has taken as a point to make for falling of it in the world. So the decline also is influenced by having dust. The coal extraction of coal creates dust. Therefore, some people discourage it as a source of energy. So they just need other alternative source of energy and not this source of energy, as it is dust, as it is heavy, as it is dark, and other reason to make. So this makes the end of the question number 3, which is categories and factors for decline. As we have said, categories of the coal, including peat, lignite, bituminous, anthracite, graphite, and other types. But reason for decline of it as a source of energy is being costly in terms of transportation, being costly in terms of its operation, that is expensiveness, environmental challenge, that is environmental pollution, as well as being dusty and dark. So generally, mining sector as a general or alternative source of energy has to be taken place in the community so that they can conserve the environment. Alternative sources of energy include energy like gas, energy such as the use of solar panels, among others. So it is important to learn the power and energy as their source of engineering activities, a source of manufacturing industry, a source of everything, any operation, economic operation of the community. So all sectors can be rising up because of the promotion of power and image to community. So that's the end of question number 3, which was the topic of power and energy. Demanded us to examine the categories and factors for decline of core as power and image in the world. So welcome to question number 4. Question number 4, which is coming from the topic of agricultural development, which states, Mr. Kiwele, who is an agricultural officer from Sokoine University of Agriculture, visited the village meeting at Kilolo in Iringa. That was about the way to develop agricultural sector to the village. During his presentation or his speech, Mr. Kiwele told the village that development of agriculture is a product of both socio-cultural factors or socio-factual parameters and climatic factors. How does this Kiwele's statement correct? Use 8 points. So the topic here is agricultural development. Topic of agricultural development, which need factors for agricultural development based on the so-called social-cultural factors or parameters and the so-called climatic or environmental factors. So social-cultural factors to make, as I can start by defining the term agricultural development or agriculture. Agriculture means a process or a fundamental human activity dealing with two main issues, which is rearing animals versus crop cultivation. It's the practice of farming versus practice of livestock keeping. So here we have 2 sectors to make, which is crop cultivators versus livestock keepers. Livestock keepers versus crop cultivators. Agricultural development needs different factors. One being a fertile soil. If you have a fertile soil, it means you will succeed in agricultural development, since the agricultural development needs a soil to encourage the growth of plants, like example maize, to make fuel. The second factor to make in relation to general factors for agricultural development is capital investment. The large-scale agricultural development needs investment of capital. A huge capital is needed to be invested in agriculture so that you can succeed or achieve it in terms of agriculture. The third to make is what you call level of technology. The higher the technology means the higher the development of agriculture. Therefore, if you have mechanization, if you have application of fertilizers, means the development of agriculture is there because of knowledge. Policy or government policy there also to make emphasis on the development of agriculture. Kilimo Kwanza policy in Tanzania has been acted as a backbone of the Tanzania agricultural development. So those were some of reasons or factors which can lead to the achievement of agriculture in any country of your choice, in any country of your case, being Tanzania, USA, South Africa, to make few. So coming to our part 2, our question is reason for agricultural development based on social-cultural factors as well as climatic factors. So by starting with social-cultural factors, number 1 is the so-called type of the farming practice. Type of farming practice. Type of farming practice. This is among the social-cultural parameter, social-cultural factors which influences our development for agriculture. How? We have different style, different farming practice, including subsistence, economy of agriculture, shift cultivation, crop rotation style, and sedentary farming, mixed farming, and others. So the development of agriculture of any type depends on the farming style of a community. As the question needs as social cultural reasons that can encourage agricultural development. Therefore, a farming style of that community, being mixed farming, for instance, being a shift to cultivation, and the other style can encourage more development of agricultural sector in the country. So a type of farming determines the level of agricultural development. So that is point number 1 for social cultural parameter. Fact number 2 to make is type of crop. The type of crop. Type of crops grow. The growth of crops also is linked to the social cultural parameters. How? Because some community perceive some activities to be done by man or to be done by woman. For instance, in our case, men in some parts, men are encouraged to grow yams in West Africa. For instance, in West Africa, the culture of West Africa, men is there to grow the yam. So to them, West African people, yam is grown by men, while vegetation is likes the land or land is owned by only man, while in parts land is owned by both man and woman. So we can take an example from Chaga in Kilimanjaro, Tanzania. Chaga community in Tanzania. The land ownership is mostly dominated by man, especially based on their dynasty. For instance, if you have a Rombo of Chaga, if you have Masawe, maybe Masawe clan, then they are just ones who can own that property and not other dynasty. So therefore, this means ownership of land also affects the production of agriculture. This influences negative or positive the agricultural development, as land ownership means people will lose the land for production. Parties can be classifying that land depending, or dividing that land depending on their claims, maybe being a Masawe, being a Chaga from maybe Ishumundo and the other parts. They are there to divide that land, and they are the owner of that property and not otherwise. This means land ownership, it can create a division of land, hence affect direct the agricultural development of the community. Number 4 reason to make in relation to the social cultural parameter is what we call religious influence. Religious influence. Religious influence. Here we can find that each religion has its own perception. For instance, the common example here is rearing pigs. A pig in most cases is owned or reared by Christianity, especially Roman Catholic, while Muslims, Jews, Hindu are not accepting this issue of rearing pigs. Therefore, some religious influence can in one way or another affecting the livestock keeping as part of agricultural development in the community. Number 5 to make there is what we call scarcity and land conflict. Scarcity of land. Scarcity of land and conflict of resources. Conflict of land. So limitation in terms of land. So we have socio-cultural parameter of scarcity of land versus conflict of that resource. This means we have a shortage of land in relation to the agricultural production. This has been noticed in many countries, including Tanzania, where in Tanzania we have a Kibiti issue. We have example from Kilolo district in Tanzania. Also in West Africa we have a Fulani conflict, a Fulani community fighting each other, which means there is a conflict between the so-called farmer farmers versus the so-called pastoralist in many countries or in many societies. This means this also is a bit a challenge to to agricultural development. Why? Because we have a shortage of land for planning for agricultural development. We have a shortage of land for encourage development of agriculture. Therefore, a scarcity of land or shortage of land is socio-cultural factors manifested through the conflict between farmer and the pastoralist existing within the community, including Kilolo in Tanzania, Kibiti in Tanzania, Fulani society in West Africa, to mention a few. So those were factors based on social cultural parameters or social cultural factors. The second side of our question is climatic reason. Climatic factor or environmental reason. So climatic factor, here we talk about all factors which in one way or another are influenced by the weather or a particular climate of that area, being tropical, equatorial, Mediterranean, savanna, to make a few. So climatic factors are also important in describing the agricultural development, because factors such as rain, factors such as temperature, factors such as wind, and factors such as sunlight encourage in one way or another development of agriculture. For instance, or by describing rainfall or precipitation, the amount of rainfall is what determines the amount of yield, the amount of harvest, the amount of outcrops or outputs made by agricultural development. So means the moderate rainfall, the moderate precipitation encourage high amount of yield in our community. Therefore, if we have a moderate one, will encourage development of agriculture as crops or plant will grow well, compared to harsh rainfall, that is too much drought or too much rain, which means will lead to perishing away of the crops. So rainfall is of importance to be discussed here as part of climatic reason, as they encourage development of agriculture. Temperature, as we all know, that amount or degree of hotness or coldness of a particular body of the atmosphere. The temperature is important also in agriculture, as the growth of plants or the harvesting processes depend on the temperature, which is optimum temperature. Each crop needs its own temperature range. Some are in 21 Celsius, other than 30 degrees Celsius to make fuel. So this means a moderate temperature, a moderate heat is needed to make the yield, to have high yield in the community. Number 3 to make is wind. Wind means air in motion, a movement of air from one place to another. This means if you have heavy wind, you have high speed, high rate of wind, means you are going to discourage development of agriculture, since wind can destroy the plants. Wind can destroy the crops found in the farm, such as maize, beans, mango, to make fuel. Therefore, our wind also is something to talk, something to debate in relation to climatic reason for development of agriculture. Number 4 is sunlight, which means a light from the sun can positive or negative encourage development of crops, since sunlight creates the so-called photosynthesis of a plant. Ability of a plant to make its own food depends on the sunlight. So adequate sunlight means the high rate of photosynthesis, the high rate of making food to that plant. So a plant with the food means good, and the harvestation of it will be of high quality and high quantity. So that is sunlight, which means also can account the development of agriculture as it acts as a source of photosynthesis to that case or to that development of agriculture. So generally, or to make a conclusion of our essay, that is factors for agricultural development based on social cultural parameters and climatic factors, is having agricultural development means you are having assets, you are having advantages or usefulness to community. The sector of agriculture, among other sectors in the country, example in Tanzania, has created or has given more development of other sectors. So for instance, in Tanzania, agricultural development has been termed as a backbone of development, a benchmark, a hallmark of the human development in the country, as it is a source of food to the community. Food found in town is from the layman, from the farmer, that is villagers. Also, agriculture is a source of raw material to manufacturing industry. You have an industry, yes, but if you have no raw material like sisal, rubber, cotton to manufacture different items in your industry, you are no longer to succeed in your sector of manufacturing industry. So agriculture also is backbone of economy, as it offers raw material to the community, that is industry. Also, there's also of revenue, that is individual collection of money, and sometimes the overall national GDP, gross national development is linked to the agriculture, as some farmers of large scale who can contribute to the taxes of the country, paying taxes, and give them to back as employment revenue to the community. So they are source of collection of money or revenues to the community and the country in large. So the other also importance is agriculture is a source of development of town and the cities. As I have said, agriculture is the backbone of the country, as it offers food to that community. It offers development of manufacturing industry, which in one way or another promotes the trade. Trade is a center, is a source of town. In Tanzania, for instance, you can talk about Dar es Salaam, the city like Mwanza, and the other areas of your choice. So that is end up the question number 4, which is agricultural development based on social cultural parameters and the climatic factor, where we said social cultural parameters or social cultural factors influencing the agricultural development, including type of farming practice, which means a style of a farming, a style of the farmers in their society, a type of crops to be grown by the community, that is either a man, like in West Africa where a man is there to grow yam, while just vegetation or plants are planted by the women. Land ownership, that is a property ownership, especially land, is linked to the so-called community, which means if you are Chaga, for instance, a Masawe clan from Kilimanjaro can have or can own the land, not other tribe of the other side. Religious influence, where we have said the religions like Jew, Hindu, and Muslims, they are not encouraging the development of livestock keeping, like pig development. A pig rearing is not there to their religions, while Christianity, including Roman Catholic, they encourage both all activities of agriculture to be grown, including the pig rearing. The last to make in social cultural parameters is scarcity of land or shortage of land. A land or shortage or limited land is there to community due to having farmer and pastoralist conflict. A farmer and the pastoralists are colliding because of the shortage of land, hence bring a challenge to development of agriculture in a country. The other side of the question was climatic factors, where we have described the temperature, rainfall, wind, and sunlight. So that's marked the end of question number 4, as from the topic of agricultural development. Agricultural development. So question number 5, as you can view it in our platform here down, as we have given some questions here down. Question number 5 reads, forests play an important role in stabilizing different ecological systems. The ecological values are necessary for the community, for economic values as well as social values. Despite of this potential of forest, deforestation has been a top agenda in the world stories. The 3 effects of deforestation and 5 strategy to be employed to promote forest conservation and management in the country. So the question is coming from sustainable forest. Sustainable forest. The topic is sustainable forest or timber industry. Timber industry. Forest. So the question demands us to describe the effect of deforestation. As the quotation is, having the forest bring ecological, economical, and cultural values to the community. But the world agenda, the world stories is saying we have many parts of the world with deforestation, which means what are the impact of that deforestation to the community, and what should be done to revamp, to remedy, or to take a remedy to the destruction of the forest in the community, so that we can have those potentials, those values or importance of having forest or timber to community. So forest means assemblage of trees with varieties of species. You have a tree like Miyombo in Tanzania, oak, and the other tree in Tanzania, which can be used for wood production and other material production. So deforestation is our key word here to make deforestation, because the question is effect of deforestation in the country or in the community. Deforestation means an act or a process of clearing forest. Act or process of clearing forest. It can be either by natural means, which means a fire, a natural fire. A volcanic eruption can also destroy the vegetation cover, that is forest. Among others, also human being can destroy it by deforestation. By cutting down for timber and the other material construction. Therefore, the sector of timber industry is linked to deforestation, as deforestation means clearing away the forest. Clearing away the forest. So our target here is to encourage more development or harmonization of the forest. So effect number 1 to make in relation to our topic here, which is effect of deforestation, is what we call drought. Drought. Deforestation or cutting down the tree will discourage development or growth of plant, which in one way or another will automatically lead to drought. As we all know that hydrological cycle, that is rain formation, depends on the vegetation cover, which means transpiration rate. The rate of evaporation versus the rate of transpiration, which means evapotranspiration, is what qualifies the area to have high rate of rain for precipitation. Therefore, drought means a scarcity of rain, which means if we cut down tree, if we have loss of those vegetation which can attract the formation of cloud as a result of rain formation, will automatically lead to drought of the community, drought in our environment. So number 2 in our case is climatic change. Number 2 is climatic change. Climatic change. Destruction of forest is an effect of deforestation. Deforestation. So climatic change means if we destroy the forest, means you are destroying the carbon sink. You are distracting the carbon sink of our planet Earth. As we all geographers understand that the tree or vegetation curve act as absorber of the carbon dioxide and releases oxygen. Therefore, carbon dioxide is part of the global warming gases, which is greenhouse gases. Therefore, having the carbon dioxide or plenty or abundance of the carbon dioxide cycle within the environment will lead to depletion or destruction of ozone layer. Therefore, a change of the climate to the community or to the environment. Number 3 to make is loss of biodiversity. Loss of biodiversity. Loss of biodiversity. As we all geographers understand that biodiversity means a variety of species. A variety of species in a vegetation or in any community. So a species like a plant, like in Tanzania, which we have a story on Miyombo disappearance in the country. Rhino disappearance as part of case study of the tourism sector or animal and wildlife. Therefore, loss of biodiversity will be linked to deforestation as some habitat of the living organism is there within the vegetation curve. So destroying the vegetation curve means you are distracting the survival of biodiversity, the survival of living organism, which is found in the area, especially in vegetation area. Number 4, to make the shortage of timber. Shortage of timber. As I have said, timber or production of timber depends on availability of forest. The forest is linked to timber production. So firewoods are timber itself, the wood, the production of table production will be not there because of lack of species, which is plant. The hardwood will be not there. The softwood as part of forest will not be there. Therefore, the shortage of timber in an area will be manifested itself in the environment as an impact of destructing forest or deforestation. Number 4 to make is what we call soil erosion. Soil erosion or land degradation. Land degradation. Soil erosion, that means a physical detachment of the land or soil from one place to another. They are mostly caused by either monoculture and other reasons. But in our case of deforestation, it means deforestation creates a bare land, creates the exposure of the land or soil to the so-called agent of soil erosion. Therefore, wind, water, and other mechanism of soil erosion will take a place within our bare land. Therefore, will lead to soil erosion, and the aftermath of it will be loss of quality of land to produce. That's the land degradation. Number 6 to make is migration of living organisms. Migration of organisms. So, migration of living organisms. As we have said, vegetation cover, especially forest, a source of habitat. So clearing it by either fire, by either volcanic eruption, by either cutting down by human being, will create the migration as of the living organism as it lost the habitat of those wild animals. So loss of habitat for them will lead them to escape away from the from the forest. Therefore, migration of living organism from one place to another to look for adequate environment, to look for clean environment for them to survive. As in our case here, the area is already perished away. It is already deforested by human activity. The second side of it was what we call remedial check. remedial check, or ways to minimize the impact of deforestation, or you can say ways to conserve the environment, ways to promote the forestry industry, ways to conserve and manage the forest, in other words. So we have made a remedial check, many ways to minimize the impact of deforestation in the community. So number one is education, environmental education. So there should be provision of environmental education which will create awareness to community, awareness on how the forest industry is of paramount importance to the community, is of a big deal regarding to human survival. So this awareness will help them to keep away from the negative human activities, including uncontrolled mining, uncontrolled agricultural activities, a random construction of habitats to make fuel. Number two, technique to take is by having strict laws and principles that are just principles, laws which will promote the development of forestry industry in the country, or laws which will be punishing the wrongdoers, those who are clearing away the environment, that is forest in our case. So those laws will encourage many people to be harmonious, to be encouraged enough to conserve the environment of our country. So also use of alternative source of energy. One among the reasons for deforestation in our country is the relying of firewoods as a source of energy or as a source of fuel. Therefore, many people just clearing away or cut down the wood, a hardwood, or a woodlands or a wood forest to create the firewoods. Therefore, if we generate alternative source of energy, encouraging more the use of gas, a natural gas, like songo gas, which is currently used by the community in Tanzania, Mtwara strip, or the natural gas from Mtwara, which has been distributed to many parts of the country in Tanzania. So this will encourage a friendly harmonization of the human activity in relation to the environment, since this will encourage using the alternative, the friendly source of energy, and they are abandoning the alternative, the source of energy, which is firewoods. Another technique to take is afforestation and reforestation. Afforestation and reforestation technique. Afforestation and reforestation technique, which means afforestation means planting a tree in an area which does not exist by that plant, while reforestation means again planting the plants which has disappeared due to human activities. Therefore, encouraging planting more trees by afforestation and reforestation will automatically encourage development of forestry industry in the country. So another is protection of the forest from natural hazards. Protecting forest from natural hazards. So one of the sources of losing forest, that's deforestation, is the natural hazards existing in the environment. And natural hazards may include volcanic eruption. A volcanic eruption can in one way or another act as a hindrance to the forest, since they can bury the forest or the vegetation curve of our community or of our environment. So natural hazards such as volcanic eruption, the fire outbreak, and volcanism or volcanic eruption will automatically lead to deforestation, while the check of it or protection of our vegetation cover from that natural hazards will automatically lead to us to enjoy the benefit or the importance of having forestry industry in the country. Therefore, to make a summary of it as our conclusion, forestation or forest industry is of paramount importance in our environment as far as social, cultural, and economic reasons or importance are of important to discuss. One is being source of employment opportunity. Many people has been employed themselves in carpentry activity or timber activity, like production of material, like a table, a chair, among others, which means the sector of timber industry has employed many people to be employed in the sector of timber. The second importance to make is what we call source of revenue to the community. A timber industry is a source of community's income, a source of individual, sometimes also a national income, as they are paid by the industrial owner, the owner of the timber industry. Also, the owner of timber industry is also paying the laborers, is paying the tax to the government, hence leading to the collection of revenues, collection of taxes to the community. Another importance is generation of raw material for further development of other sectors. Timber industry acts as a source of raw material for other industries, including manufacturing industry. Raw material, for instance, palm and paper or paper and printing, industrial development is linked to woods, is linked to the forest or tree. So having a tree, then you can have an industry producing papers, producing pencils, and other items. Therefore, another importance of having forestry industry is by having raw material to the community. So generally, this marks the end of the effect of deforestation and way forward. As we have said, effect of deforestation including drought, which means lack of rain, climatic change, which you have said due to carbon dioxide existing in the area. Also loss of biodiversity, that is loss of living organisms. A variety of living organisms is lost due to deforestation, as forestries are part of habitat to them. Shortage of timber or shortage of lumbering is there also to make in terms of effect of deforestation. Soil erosion or degradation also is there to be described as impact. Also migration of organisms due to loss of habitat to them. In part of remedial check, what should be done is environmental education should be encouraged to create more awareness of the community in preserving the tree or forestry industry. Strict laws and the principle, that means there should be a policy, there should be laws which will punish the wrongdoers, those who are cutting down the tree of our forestry. Alternative source of energy is also there to make in our discussion here, because the alternative source of energy will act as environmental protection of the forest, since we abandoned the production of wood as a source of energy to villagers. So afforestation and deforestation also, as we have said, planting more trees to our community. For example, in Tanzania, we have also a policy of green cities, planting more trees to make a city green. Example is found in Dodoma city, Mbeya city, and some parts of the region, which encourage more green city by encouraging planting more tree of the area. Protecting forest from the natural hazards, as I have said, hazards including pest, disease, volcano, fire, which in one way or another destroy the environment, destroy the so-called forestry or forest industry. So that marks the end of question number 5, which is from the sustainable use of forestry, or you can call it timber industry. So welcome to question number 6, which is coming from tourism, environmental friendly tourism, a case study of South Africa as our case. The question is, as you can pass through in our presentation, in our document posted there in our platform down, reads as the Republic of South Africa offers a friendly atmosphere for flourishing of tourism in the continent. South Africa is located on the southernmost tip of the African continent and is marked by a dense ecosystem. Briefly examine 8 factors for successful tourism in South Africa. So the question is asked to describe the factors for development of tourism in South Africa. As we all know that South Africa is found in southern tip of the African continent. Southern tip of the African continent. So we have different factors which have led or resulted into development of sustainable sustainable tourism in the country in South Africa. So the question needs us to describe the factors for development of tourism in South Africa. So South Africa, as I have said, is found in the southern part of the African continent, is mainly featured by Mediterranean type of the climate, and is one of the best country in tourism industry, one of the case studies to be enjoyed in the sustainable tourism in our lovely subject, which is geography. So factors for development of tourism in South Africa, as I can explain what is tourism as movement of people from one place to another for either leisure, study, or sometime amuse, for leisure, for study, or sometimes for enjoying the environment. So tourism is there to make amusement, to make refreshment mechanism to people, there to refresh. So many people can take a trip for just study or for just leisure. Some are there for leisure and some are in tourist attraction for getting knowledge, that is education purpose. So South Africa, as I have said, is mainly featured by good climatic condition, which is Mediterranean. The climate or the weather condition of South Africa attract almost many countries to be visiting that country. For instance, people from Finland, Netherlands, USA, Britain, to make a few, can enjoy the environment of South Africa, as the environment of South Africa is of a good condition to suit a variety of people found in different parts of the world. So factors influence development of tourism in South Africa. One is what we call accessible wildlife. Accessible wildlife. Accessible wildlife. A good example there is Addo Elephant National Park. Example is Addo National Park. Addo Wildlife National Park in South Africa, or Addo Elephant National Park in South Africa. So many people visiting the South Africa country because they have accessible wildlife. They have many attractions in terms of animals, including elephant. For example, we have a national park dominated by many elephants, which is Addo Elephant National Park in South Africa. So this makes the people from different parts of the countries or different parts of the world to visit South Africa to see what is the importance, what is to enjoy in elephant viewing or in viewing elephant found in Addo national park. So the second point to make, as I have said, is good climatic condition. Good climatic condition, which I said it is a Mediterranean type of climate. So a climate of South Africa, I have said prior, is encourage or promoting many visitors from different parts of the world, as even the people from Europe can enjoy the environment of South Africa, as the environment of South Africa is somewhat similar to the part or some parts of Europe, like countries like Britain, Finland, Netherlands, Germany, USA, and the other part of the world. Number 3 to make is accommodation. Accommodation. Having more accommodation. More accommodation. Having excellence accommodation. So in South Africa, we have more development of hotels, motels, restaurants, which helps people to enjoy the environment of South Africa. A good example in South Africa is 12 Apostle Hotel. Example is 12 Apostle Hotel in South Africa. This is a 5-star hotel found in South Africa, which can accommodate many people in the country. So a 12 Apostle Hotel is one among the reasons to facilitate or to examine the development of South African tourism, because having accommodation like restaurants means you have assured the survival of human being. If you have assured with accommodation like hotel or motel, means it acts as a promotion to the survival of human or man in different parts or for different activity. Another is excellence conference facility. Excellence conferences. Go to Durban in South Africa. Durban in South Africa. Also in Cape Town in South Africa. They have many conferences, a special room for discussion, a special room for conferences, for different meeting. So many people also are attracted to go to South Africa because they are assured of the different the modern conferences found in areas like KwaZulu-Natal, Cape Town, Durban, and other parts of South Africa. Another reason is development of infrastructure. Infrastructure development. Development of infrastructure, including railway, airports in South Africa, has also facilitated easy development of South Africa tourism industry. How? Because this has facilitated the easy movement of people from one town to another, from Kimberley City to Cape Town City, from Durban City to Cape Town City, and other parts like Traverse City, the western part of the South Africa, and the other part. So a good example is Tambo International Airport. Tambo International Airport, which has facilitated easy development of South Africa tourism because of easy and accessibility of some places in South Africa by moving passengers from one region to another region, from one best city to another best city. The other is the political factor, that is government influence, the government support. The government has made a support toward development of sustainable tourism in South Africa, since the government has injected some amount of money, US dollars, to the sector of tourism to promote or to save the survival of tourism, to save the development of South Africa tourism industry. Therefore, the government has encouraged more visitors, has opened up the door, has removed the barrier of the external migrant. Therefore, the many visitors from different places has visited South Africa because of the support of the government, because of the regulation of the policies guiding the industry of tourism in the country. Example, allowing or removing the tariff, a barrier or tariff in border or nearby boundaries or borders. Therefore, this marks the development of tourism in South Africa to be one of the best in Africa, and as far as the global or world is concerned. Another point to make is what we call diverse culture. Diverse culture. We have traditional culture versus what we call traditional culture and township African culture. The culture of South Africa is of two kinds, which is African culture, which is town African culture, and the traditional African culture. That means a Zulu culture and a Western culture. This culture, example, traditional Zulu village. Visiting a village of Zulu village. A Zulu village has been created there to preserve a culture of South Africa, especially a Zulu culture. So therefore, someone can visit South Africa to look for a Zulu culture, a Zulu village, so that in one or another can enjoy the cultural aspect of South Africa traditional culture. Number 8 to make is having a scenery, a good scenery, attractive scenery, attractive landscape or scenery, landscapes. South Africa has a number of attractions, a number of natural attractions, one being a Table Mountain, another being a Kruger National Park. Kruger National Park, a Table Mountain, all this has been landscape attraction to visitors. So many people has been visiting the South Africa tourism because of attraction of some areas, including Kruger National Park, garden route found also in South Africa, as well as Table Mountain in South Africa. So those are some 8 reasons as questions as you can pass through in our handout taken listed to you in this platform of presentation. Question number 6, which needs just 8 factors to make for development of tourism, which is therefore is accessibility in terms of wildlife, where we have Ado Elephant National Park, in South Africa, good climatic condition which favor both a black color or a black skin color versus a white man in the country. So accommodation of people in the country, which means having development of hotel, motel to make fuel, means there is possibility of having main development in sector of tourism as people will enjoy the environment of the country. Conferences found in KwaZulu-Natal, Cape Town and Durban has been also a discussion to make here as a factor for development of tourism in South Africa. Infrastructure development, the development of transport and communication, especially railway transport, and as we have already an example of Tambo International Airport has created a paramount discussion in factors for growth of tourism in South Africa. Political reason or political factor, that is the governmental support. A support from the government, which I have said, the support from the government is either by provision of loan and grants by providing the skilled labor, by providing income to that sector, by providing or allowing more people to enter their country, by reducing the tariff, by reducing the tax to foreigners. This has promoted the sector of tourism in the country. Also culture, the cultural aspect, that is the cultural value, which is African traditional culture versus the Western culture, as I did. The example is Zulu village as one of the African culture, where you can have aspect of culture, or you can view different things regarding the traditions and customs of the Zulu culture in a Zulu village. Also attraction in terms of scenery or landscapes. That's attraction or honeypots of the environment in South Africa, which we have said we have a Table Mountain as an example. Table Mountain, and the Kruger National Park. Kruger National Park, and also our game reserves versus Table Mountain as one of the examples to describe the point of attraction of the landscape in the community. So generally you can make a conclusion of our essay here by providing the importance of tourism industry in South Africa. The tourism industry in South Africa has been and is continuing to provide a variety of importance or paramount contribution to the economy of South Africa. One is generation of national income. The sector of tourism is generating a national income to the South African government. The second being internationalization or recognition of South Africa as a father of tourism in the world, as the father of tourism in Africa, to be specific. So South Africa is well known because of the good development of South African tourism. So a sector of tourism has led recognition of the country to the world. Globally is viewing South Africa as a part of a tourism center, as a part of world tourism center as far as Africa is concerned. So another importance to make there is development of infrastructure. So as we have said, social services is encouraging it to be there because of the income generated to the sector of tourism. So social services like water supply, electricity, to make fuel has been generated or used in the country because of the income generated to the sector. Furthermore, the transportation sector has been widened up to accommodate the number of visitors in the country. As I've said, the visitors can come from Sweden, Finland, Germany, USA, Britain to make fuel, automation, fuel. Therefore, all of this describing how far is South Africa is a father of tourism in Africa and the world itself, and it's important to continue doing the best environmental or sustainable environmental tourism in the world. So that marks the end of question number 6 as we have presented. So last question for today is question number 7, coming from the topic of transport and communication sector. Transport and communication sector. So the sector of transport and communication sector marks our today's evening presentation of Geography Chapter 2. As I said earlier, that Geography 2 comprises different topics which include both human and economic activities, and as far as population development is concerned. So our our question in number 7, which you can view it in our platform down there, as we have given to you some questions. So question number 7 reads, account for 8 advantage of air transport of other means of transport. Advantage of air transport over other means of transport. So as I've said, the topic is transportation. Transport and communication. Transport and communication. So the topic is transport and communication. Our topic here is transport and communication. Transport means a movement of people from one place to another. A movement of people from one place to another. Transportation. So transportation means a movement of people from one place to another. Transportation means, as I've said, movement of people from one place to another. We have different modes of transport. One being air transport, as the question needs us to describe air transport. How air transport is important or is advantageous comparing to other mode of transport. Which other mode of transport? That means land transport like road transport, railway transport, marine or water transport, pipeline transport to make fuel. So the question needs us to compare or to take advantages of having air transport when comparing it to other means of transport. Taking air transport in relation to or by comparing it to land transport like road. Taking air transport by comparing it to road transport, water transport, pipeline transport, among others. So therefore, air transport, as our case, means movements of people by using an aeroplane. Movement of people by means of aeroplane. Movement of people by means of aeroplane. By means of aeroplane. By means of aeroplane. So the topic here, our topic is transportation. Advantage of air transport. So number one is what we call fastest mode of transport. Air transport is the fastest, quickest mode of transport compared to other modes like road transport, marine transport, and pipeline transport, as it uses aeroplane or helicopter to travel from one geographical unit to another geographical unit. Therefore, when comparing to other means of transport like road and railway, air transport is the fastest or quickest mode of transport. The second is rescue. A mode of transport used in rescue ensures. That means during a disaster, air transport is commonly and the quickest one to solve the problem exactly by the disasters. If you have an earthquake, for instance, you have an earthquake, you have a tsunami, you have a volcanic eruption, you have a tropical cyclone like hurricanes, tornadoes, whirlwinds. There you must have the so-called air transport to travel people from one place to another. Since the air transport is the fastest, as we said, and the quickest, so people injured by the natural disasters can be easily carried away or can be easily transported by the means of air transport. A symbol of national prestige. It is a symbol of national prestige. Having air transport means you have a prestigious life to the country. A country is qualified to have a better life in terms of development of transport if the transportation sector is of air transport or air mode of transport. Therefore, air transport is a symbol or a sign of national prestige in the country. Air transport also connect inaccessible areas. remote areas, which are not accessible by other means of transport, such as road transport, such as rail transport, navigation and transportation, to make few, can be easily accessed by means of air transport, since air transport is just a sector which uses a plane or airplane to fly around the atmospheric condition of your surrounding. So it can connect one place to another which is not connected, which means inaccessible area. It is also a comfortable means of transport, comfortability factor. In relation to other modes, as I said, we have road, railway, navigation, pipeline, and the other. Air transport is of comfortable or high degree of comfortability, since this mode of transport ensures the comfortability means of transportation of goods and transportation of people in the community. Another is tourism development. Unlike of other means of transport like road and railway, this can link people from distant places, people from Europe to come to a country because of air transportation. So you can have visitors, you can have tourists from the Western countries, from the European countries, because of high development in air transportation. So as we have presented in question number 6, that South Africa development is linked to the Tambo International Airport, the development of air transport in South Africa. This brings us the confidence to state that any sector, including tourism development, can be there or can be developed due to air transportation. Number 7 to make is what we call not affected by physical barrier. Unlike the road transport, which depend on the physical or nature of the surface, air transport does not need the physical or environment concern, since road transport, for instance, needs the surface to be flat, not of mountainous, but air transport can fly even if you have a rough mountainous areas. So air transport is not affected by physical barrier, while other means of transport like land transport like road, land transport like pipeline can be affected by the physical nature or physical barrier of an area. The other point, or number 8 point to make, is the sector of air transport can transport many people and goods at once. So you can have transportation of safely many people and many goods from one place to another. Especially also you can transport the perishable goods like fish from one place to another, because we have said this mode is the fastest or quickest mode of transport compared to other modes. So you can have many people and many commodities to be carried by this industry of air transportation. The last point to make for today is this mode of transport is very useful in security purpose. For security purpose. Point number 9. Air transport is easily or is simply to use purpose. For instance, a military can travel from one place to another. A military can use helicopter to travel from one place to another for military purpose, for running away from the foe or from the enemy. Therefore, a military sector can be developed due to air transport, unlike transportation means like railway transport water transport, and pipeline transport. So generally, the transportation sector is affected by different problems. As we are making a conclusion of the question number 7, we can say the transportation sector is affected by different challenges, including lack of enough capital to make, lack of enough capital to invest in the sector of transportation, especially air transport. As we all know that air transport needs a capital intensive, need high or huge amount of investment in the sector. Air transport also is affected by the labor intensity, which means needs the high skill labor to be developed as the sector of air transport. So a skilled one is only ones who is needed to be developing the air transport. So generally, advantages of our question, which is that air transport in relation to other means of transport, may include, number 1, fastest or quickest mode of transport. As we have said, they are very quickest mode of transport, which is used for rescue issues. That is, if we have natural hazards like calamities such as volcano eruption, earthquake, can be easily taken by means of air transportation. National prestige, as we have said, it is a symbol or a symbol of a national prestige to the community. The other is connection of the inaccessible areas. Air transport can connect a distant location, a distant geographical location. Therefore, it is very potential compared to other means of transport. Number 5, we have said comfortability reason, comfortability importance, which means the safest and comfortable transportation means is air transport when you compare to railway and road and the other means of transportation. The other was tourism development, where we have cited the Tabo International Airports in South Africa as one of the reasons for development of tourism in South Africa. In this case also, the tourism of any country can be there because of the visitors from outside countries can be visiting your place because of development of air transport. Not affected by the physical or natural environment, that's the physical being. Mountains and other rift valleys and other barriers cannot affect direct the development of air transport. The other point, number 8, is the sector of air transport is the quickest and travel transit many people and items. So commodities and the goods can be carried at once from one place to another in relation or compared to other means like water, pipeline, and railway. Right. Security purpose, as we have said, military or army development also needs so-called air transportation. So air transportation is of importance in relation to other means of transport. So that marks the end of question number 7. As we have posted to you in the handout given, or questions outlined in this platform, and I hopefully you have enjoyed some discussion as we have traveled together to describe different topics. We have made almost 5 topics. Topic number 1 was human population development. Topic number 2 was agricultural development. Topic number 3 was sustainable use of power and energy. Topic number 4 was the forestry or timber industry. Topic 5 was the so-called transport and communication. Hopefully you have enjoyed our discussion, and we offer you any comments in our platform, and hopefully you enjoy a good evening, and goodbye. Welcome again to another presentation of St. Joseph Online University platform. Thank you and goodbye. Will be from the sector